All right. Next up, we got a panel, followed by another panel with unbelievable speakers. You guys don't know what you're about to miss if you're leaving this room right now. I'm just saying. All right. Well, you guys are the most important. You're staying. All right. We got, right now, Orlie, Itai, Sefi, Asaf, David from some of the hottest companies in the space. And they're going to now grace us with their presence on stage, hopefully.
One of them is that he's meeting with an Israeli startup in our field, which is no surprise. Today, at the Ecomotion community, we have 580 startups in the field of smart transportation that are reshaping the transportation landscape as we speak and are the frontier of the technology today and creating not the future, but right now. And AI is a big thing, right? It's a big thing that's driving it and that's pushing it forward. Hello, good morning. So, David, how do you think AI is influencing the transportation today? What do you think will be the future of it?
Hi, Orlie. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So, AI is changing the transportation in many ways, but one of the main issues, the way it transfers, it makes transportations much more efficient in many ways. One way is the transportation itself. Things like taxis that drive more time because they have more calls. You know, startups like Gett and UVeye and others are doing that. And things like autonomous driving, which makes driving much easier, so you can drive much more time. Things like car sharing, mobility as a service, pay-per mileage, all of those transformation in the mobility makes vehicles drive more time. The utilizations of vehicles is much higher, and we have much more vehicles driving more hours on the road. So that's one of the ways that AI is transforming the transportation. Mobility becomes much more efficient and much more handy to all kind of customers and needs.
And today, we're going to talk about how it's transforming it in different sectors. If we have shared mobility and autonomous vehicles, you're more in the enabling the car sharing and the predictive maintenance. So where does AI touch your solution exactly?
Yeah, so when we look at this transformation of the mobility, and we look at the vehicles that if an average vehicle today is utilized 5% of the time, and 95% of the time the vehicle is idle. When we're looking at the near future, not even the long future, the near future that happens already, vehicles are going to drive much more time, from 5% to 10%, 15%, and maybe even get to 50% of the time. That requires automatic inspection for the vehicles. It's crucial to keep maintenance of those vehicles because they drive much more. And not only they drive much more, because of AI, there's much less private ownership on vehicles, which actually becomes even a bigger problem because nobody cares for the vehicle personally. That's where we in UVeye, we use AI to inspect the vehicles automatically and understand their status, so we can inform whoever is operating the vehicle what is the status and whether is there any kind of a problem that needs to be attended.
Cool. You have here your machine outside?
We have the mobile unit, yes, outside, just to give a demonstration.
Whoever didn't see it yet should go and see it later. It's pretty interesting.
Thank you very much.
Itai, we talked a lot about autonomy and this whole new autonomous future. What do you feel the role of AI is in creating of this autonomy?
All right, so autonomy is basically AI. Autonomy is the movement, interaction, and decision-making of a car, a vehicle, a robot, a drone in space with the environment. So in order to achieve autonomy, it's usually divided into three parts. The first one is perception, how we perceive the world, objects, other agents, where am I, localization, that's perception. The other part is planning. How do I move from A to B? In the sense of transportation, it's navigation. How does the car, how does the vehicle move from one location to another?
Yeah, it's about moving, and it's about, percepting. I see it, if we're taking the human brain, we're trying to make a computerized brain, right? And trying to help it make all these decisions. And it's also to perceive one thing from another and to try and understand it, right? If it's a cat, then it's a cat, but it can be many other things. So in imagery, how do you solve all these unsolved issues? Because we still have not a very long way, right? But you have a different intake on how we should move this forward.
Today the main challenges in autonomous driving and getting from where we are today, which is around level 2 or 3 to level 5, is about taking the next stage to unstructured environments. Unstructured environments meaning that we don't rely on HD mapping. Current solutions today, even level 3, level 4 solutions that are being developed are mostly relied on heavily high-resolution mapping of the environment before you drive on it. After that, the car can use high-accuracy GPS to localize itself, or expensive sensors like radars or LiDARs. Going to the next stage is going to where a place in the technology where you don't need to do HD mapping. And you don't even need to see the environment before the car drives on that specific place. And this is exactly what we're doing. Heavily relying on deep learning throughout the pipeline. Perception is usually done by not only us, by other companies, by supervised learning. And today the challenge is not object detection. I think you've seen many demos on vehicle detection, pedestrian detection. These solutions are pretty much mature. But road detection, not lane, road. Perceiving what a road is based on either cameras or LiDAR is not a completely solved issue. That's in the perception. In the planning, a lot of solutions are based on decision making. A tree to make a decision, if I have this, then I will do that. It's very hard to scale. The level 5 of autonomy, the variance of the environments in which you will encounter, it's too big for a tree. And this is why current solutions are based on reinforcement learning. You give a reward function, and then the network will eventually be able to drive and solve those unseen and unplanned scenarios.
Everything is better with a positive rewarding. Asaf, we've talked about Gett, and it's come a very long way from an app that you click to order a taxi to today, an app that's actually defining the flow of taxis, which take a lot of the usage on the roads, and define all the flow of transportation in a city. At what point AI came in? Can you share a little bit about this journey that came along? And also, you were acquired as Street Smart to Gett, by Gett, in order to create this vision. So,
hi everyone. Gett was started operating 7 years ago, and I think there are 3 main factors that facilitate the change towards more AI-driven technology. So one of them is obviously the change in the ability to work with large-scale data and to actually have the computing power and the abilities to have NI in production and in real time to make decisions. The other factor is when we started, now I'm talking about Gett, we needed to create the marketplace. So we need to have the app working and everything in terms of the business, to have drivers and passengers and everyone that can use our system. As the system, or as the marketplace grew, it now comes a very big challenge of managing this marketplace. And as a dynamic marketplace, the management system for this is extremely complex. And as was mentioned here by my colleagues, decision-making using rule-based engines in these extremely complex conditions is very hard and often breaks. So this is where I think AI comes into the play initially in Gett. Part of it was the acquisition of Street Smart, and today in Gett, we have AI in many different aspects of the business, mainly the marketplace management, but also other domains within the business.
You've started making me put in my destination, and I'm sure this has something to do with managing and perceiving what's going forward, right?
Yes.
It's annoying. So if you're looking forward, so what's the goal? What's the future? How do you see it in the future of Gett and AI? Where is it going to go?
Right. So I think the whole industry of mobility and transportation is going through a revolution and an evolution, basically, and maybe a double one even. So we had the first revolution a few years ago with the internet and mobile phones, and the next evolution is going to be with the AI and autonomous cars. And in Gett, we firmly believe in what we call the ecosystem approach, in which there will be autonomous cars that are serving as the what is now the taxi transportation in the system, in the city, and we'll have ecosystems composed of autonomous car manufacturers, insurance companies, fleet management companies, and also the platform to manage this whole operation. And we call it mobility as a service or transportation as a service, obviously. And so we see Gett as the enabler for this and the platform to manage this, as part of this ecosystem, to manage the mobility in the city. And these autonomous vehicles will need a very smart AI system to manage them in the most efficient way, because eventually now, after we created the marketplace, efficiency and optimization is basically now the name of the game.
Yeah. Actually, you've said a lot of things also that really connect to Otonomo. I think today you created a new role in this ecosystem, and this multi-modeling of, mobility is going to become all in one, and it's going to create a lot of data, and it's a lot of question of what we're going to do with all of that. And Otonomo put themselves right on this spot. Sefi, do you think AI was there from the beginning? What point in your road did you start putting in machine learning and all of these things in order to enable this whole future and to create marketplaces and the usage of data in the right way?
Hi, everyone. So basically, as you mentioned, there's a lot of applications that we started with. You have to start with the basic needs. In the beginning, there's no way today of actually consuming data from one unified place, and that's what Otonomo is trying to do. If, for example, you're a parking application, a smart city application, or so on, you have to now do your own integration, unless you have a fleet of your own, like some of the application does. So we've started with that, building a platform that allows, for example, a parking application. We know today that 30% of the people in the big cities are now spending 30% of the time looking for parking. So if you're a parking application and you want to try to get a real view of the city and try to better the situation, you have to connect to a platform like Otonomo. So that's what we're trying to do at the beginning. So there's a hierarchy of needs. So at the beginning, we handled all the connectivity. Later on, we added security level, privacy, regulation, everything that this, all the data requires all these capabilities. On top of that, we added a rich API, and then really at the really top of the pyramid, you can see the AI, which will allow, for example, like safety applications. We are doing some integration with safety company that requires to know about accidents. Up to now, they had to wait for a phone call from person that had an accident, and now using Otonomo, we can give them a heads up. We can push notifications by trying to identify, using machine learning and AI, dangerous situation. We can contribute to smart cities and really controlling and real-time grid of power and so on. That's where we see Otonomo is part of the game.
We're doing a health and motion working group. We should talk about that because a lot of the information today that is generated in vehicle can be used to optimize safety and especially emergency first comers, special forces. So we need to follow up on that. Okay, you're doing all these things. What is your goal? How do you see Otonomo in the future?
So our goal is really enabling the revolution of car data. The fact that if you have the data, you can make smarter and better choices. Today, there's quite a few companies that are able to do that, and with Otonomo creating this ecosystem and platform, you can open the world, much like you do in every marketplace in the world, to all the companies to do better things like parking, safety, smart cities, EVs, and so on. So the real goal is actually allowing all the companies and all the innovation to drive this new revolution forward, because without data, you can't do any smart things, and that's what we're trying to do. Make applications smarter. We can, we can integrate with Gett, we can integrate with any autonomous AI training and so on. That's our goal. We are a platform, we're an ecosystem, and we want to make our partners better.
We're going to do a session of exploring synergies here. It started already backstage, but we'll find that in a few. Before we finish, from all your experience, I want you to give the crowd a little bit of tips. Maybe opportunities in the field, challenges right now, where do you see the gaps? Something that they can go home with and maybe work on or take in. First.
Maybe I will start with something.
Yeah.
We in UVeye, we've started with a security solution at the beginning, and then we moved into automotive. And it's very interesting to see how a technology can answer a lot of problems there are. So open your eyes, because automotive and transportation market is changing rapidly, and there's always new needs and new requirements to some things. One thing I would like to add is that if you think AI first, if you come with that approach, you can solve a lot of very hard problems. For us, it took almost 1.5 years until we understood that only with deep learning and unsupervised deep learning and all of those things that you can hear probably better on the developer stage, are the approaches, the right approaches to solve very complex problems. That is my smallest tip I can give right now, that just open your eyes and think AI first.
You have one?
You want to go first?
I'll take it. Okay. So I think we are just scratching the surface in terms of AI and mobility. I think AI right now is very good at well-defined problems, and we're trying a lot to solve, let's say, not so well-defined problems, which are more complex, and real-world problems are much more messy and hard to solve. And there's a lot of opportunities over there. And for anyone wanting to start a startup in this domain, I would say make sure that you bring real value. I think that's the main advice I can give.
So if I can give my 2 cents, so I think data science is first and foremost is about the data. So if you only go to the science first and try to use a lot of algorithms just because they exist, it's not the right approach. You have to, first of all, look at the data, you have to explore it, you have to clean it, you have to really know what you're trying to do. So that's where I would begin. Really to understand what data do you have and what are the use cases, or what are you trying to solve. Which is something that usually people don't really do at the beginning. They just throw a lot of algorithms on a problem, and I think that's not the right approach. I think there's a lot of challenges, as mentioned here, with data and big data. When you go from your own notebook or your own PC towards the real world, and you see gigs and teras and petas, everything is reshuffled. It's a new game. So again, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
I would add that currently today AI is synonymous with supervised learning. I would say the challenges going forward is like my friends here said, is unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning. These are the current state-of-the-art research, development. So if you're thinking about going into the space, I would leave supervised learning alone and go into unsupervised.
Okay, good tips. So just to sum up, mobility today is becoming a little bit of everything. If before it was a gearbox and a steering wheel, today it's gesture control, it's fatigue, it's vital signs, it's data, it's understanding the passengers, it's enabling optic vision, sensors, lidars, lidars, SWIR, LIR, all these buzzwords. It's becoming a lot of everything. That's why I said the startups in our community grow not only upwards but also sideways, because more and more technologies are becoming relevant to our field. If you'd like to explore or you're thinking about opening a startup in this field, we would love to meet and greet and help in any form and shape. Ecomotion is a nonprofit organization and here just to help the whole community succeed. So thank you all so much for coming here today, and good luck to all today.